All right. Well, welcome everybody to our second workshop presented by the Girragarum First Nations Homeschool Co-op. We're really excited to have you all on the Zoom tonight. Or if you're watching the recording, we're just happy to see you on the link. So today is week 2 of our 4-week workshop series. Before we get started, I'd just like the First Nations Homeschool Workshop facilitators, we acknowledge the Aboriginal and Zenarthas peoples as Australia's first peoples who have never ceded their sovereignty, never ceded our sovereignty. We'd like to acknowledge the Gimmo, Wallabari, Yidinji and Yutakanji peoples as the traditional custodians of the lands in which our workshops are facilitated from. We pay our deepest respects to the elders past and present and acknowledge their contribution, sacrifices, resilience, and hope that continues to strengthen our people for generations to come. We acknowledge that this land always was and always will be Aboriginal and Zenarthas people's lands. So, like we did last week and the week before, we're just going to have a minute of silence again and just take this time to connect with our bodies, connect with our spirits, connect with why we're here, and any intentions that you have for this workshop, you can set them now. But you know, we are, all of us on this link are mothers, and so mothers, carers, providers, and so it's just important that we create this space so that we can be present and we can be intentional about what we're doing. So I'm going to turn my screen off and I'm going to put my my timer on for a minute. So I'm going to do that now. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I hope that settled us a little bit. So before we get started, we just want to set some housekeeping. So there will be a question and answer time at the end of this session. And we just really want to encourage you that, you know, everything that we are doing, and we talk about this, we've spoken about this from the introductory session, we did it last week, and we'll keep talking about it, that the fact that everything that we are doing whilst we are doing these workshops is decolonizing. And this workshop in particular can seem a little bit, I guess, like, I don't want to say the word boring, but just kind of like, you know, straight to the point. I said the word systematic. I don't know if that's the word. There might be another word for it. But it's important that we keep at the forefront of our minds and our focus that, you know, the purpose of what we're doing is connecting with our children and our wellbeing. And, you know, the foundation of these sessions are focused on turning our hearts to our children and really seeing them for who they are. And really connecting with these amazing little people. And, you know, when you think about decolonizing education and our ways of learning, it's a really big subject. And it's something that we just have to continue to do every single day, and something that we have to continue to work on. So today's session, this entire workshop is about how to register for homeschool in Queensland if you are a Queensland resident. If you're not a Queensland resident, then we can give you some information on how to do that. We have some families that are a part of our First Nations Co-op that aren't in Queensland, so it can provide you some information there. But we also are going to go on to talking about creating an annual education learning plan. And so, you know, there's numerous Facebook pages on how we can do this. And so we will also give you some links on how to be on the pages that you can go to so that you can actually find different templates. But legally, this is what we have to do. And so even though we're decolonizing our learning, we're still required by law, LAW, to have to register with a home education unit. There are families who have chosen not to register their children and they're flying under the radars, and that's totally their choice. But for the purpose of everyone being here, we're assuming that you mob are, you know, registering your children or looking at registering your children. And so we're going to show you the steps to do so and how to do this. And it's also deadly too, because we get to yarn about, you know, when we're putting these plans together, ways that we can connect with our children and ways that we can also look at, you know, some of the things that we're getting them engaged with and involved with in the community and in our homes. We wanted to put this quote there because it's just a very impactful quote. You can't keep using tools of oppression and expect to raise free people, from the Fair of the Free Child podcast. And I would encourage you, if you haven't linked into those mob yet, to 100% link into them, connect with them, and just really just learn from them, because they're doing some amazing work. But we hope tonight that we can give you some tools that help us all and help you to continue to raise these amazing little warriors that are deeply connected to us, and we're connected to them. We hope that the tools that we can give you help you to raise these little warriors that give a damn about this earth. They're confident, they're strong, resilient, and young people that are going to change the world, not just cliche, oh, they're going to change the world. They actually will change the world, and they'll change the world, especially for us being First Nation people and allies as well. So screenshot this or do whatever you need to do, but it's just going to be something that we continue to thread throughout all the workshops, because it's just such an important reminder that, you know, the way that we are going to continue to take down these systems of oppression is sometimes by infiltrating it from the inside out. So how to register for homeschool? Well, if you just Google the Queensland Home Education Unit, it'll take you to the registration tab, and then you can complete the online application there. But basically what we've done is we've just put some little images here, some screenshots, so you can actually see when you do Google it, then you go to the little registration tab that's circled here. And then there's a section right here that's underlined in green, and it says application for registration for home education. You click on that, and then you commence your application for your child. Now, the thing is, in order to actually finish and complete and submit this application, you need to have a birth certificate present, so you can put those details into the system and into the application. And then you also need to have the annual learning plans. That's why we have the registration and the annual learning plan working together today and in this workshop, because you need both to actually register. So as we continue, we've just kind of put together as a co-op some thoughts of what is an annual learning plan. So it's a yearly plan that suits your child that is sent to the home education unit. It's really important that you don't overthink this process. I know I have overthought it sometimes, but, you know, having deadly support around me, Annie Layla, really, I guess, giving some advice just to not overthink it, but also knowing that some of the main things that they look for in your plan is that your plan is unique to each child that you're registering. So even if you have multiple children, it's not as simple as copy and pasting, but it's something that's unique to each individual child. That you are also prepared to keep evidence of work and the progress that your children are going through. They want to see that you know where to find lessons and resources. They want to have a look at what your workspace looks like. So you don't necessarily have to take photos of it. You can just write down in the plan what they have access to, sunlight, a table, all of that type of stuff. And then also there is a template on the website to follow that you can have a look at as well. So now when you're looking at developing a annual learning plan, it's just really important to think about the overall foundation and the purpose of why we're doing it, and it's for connection with your child. And so developing an annual learning plan is really looking at who they are And things that can help you know who they are is doing the personalities test that we've posted up, the values test, but paying attention to them and really watching them, immersing them in the things that they're interested in. I know that, you know, we have, my family personally, we've been on this the shortest amount of time. But, you know, even in just the last couple of weeks, the things that especially my son in particular, is liking is different to what he liked last year. And so I guess the purpose of why we're doing this and why we keep talking about connection is because we've got to evolve and we've got to be able to transform and change as our children are transforming. And so when you're thinking about your annual learning plan, you're asking questions like, who are your children? What are they into? What is your definition of success? That is a big thing, you know, and I know that a lot of times as homeschoolers or unschoolers, you know, a lot of time we get asked, oh, is your children up to, you know, their Australian curriculum with reading or friggin' writing, or like, you know, different things. Start getting wild now again. Like, you know, you are constantly getting asked about these things. But if your definition of success is not that, and your definition of success is something else, then that is a really easy way to explain to the people that you're talking to, not that it's any of their business, but, you know, thinking about what is the definition of success for you and your family. Is it that you want your children to be a good person? Do you want them to be kind, caring, empathetic, compassionate, humble? So determining success isn't always about goals, but about heart and feelings. I learned that from Auntie Layla, and I found that was a very inspiring thing to say. I'm just going to say that again. Determining success isn't always about goals, but about heart and about feelings. And so as we continue to decolonize our education and we reclaim that educational sovereignty as First Nations people or allies, once you start pushing one institution down or you start pushing against one institution, what happens is potentially it can start pushing down other pillars that we are like, yeah, no, I don't really agree with that. I think that needs to change. And so when you're looking at your learning plans, you're really thinking about those things, and really thinking about, you know, the way that you're creating it so that it suits your children, but also too thinking about the way that you like teaching as well, or not just teaching, mentoring or I guess coaching your children. Does any mums have anything you want to share about that? You might keep going. Okay. All right. So these are some practical ways on how to create your annual learning plan or your annual education plan. So the first example that we've gotten here, my cursor's over the first example. This is a school style education plan example. So what we've got here is your learning areas. And for the sake of this workshop, we've got one example. So we've got language, literacy and literature, English. And there, so you've got the learning area, then you've got the activity. The activity is learning to read, learning to write, learn to speak. Well, in this, we've also got learn to speak their native language, because that's also how we decolonize their learning. It's not just focusing on them actually speaking English, but also speaking their native tongues as well, which is very important to us as First Nations, Pacifica and Indigenous people. Then we talk about the resources on how to get them to that activity. And so, for example, a resource that we as a family use was these little books called Wow, I Can Read books, and they go up to 4 different levels. And so in order to learn to read, we use this resource, and then we went through this resource every day so that they could learn how to read. And also too, we did this because they wanted to read and they were interested in reading. And then it's got reporting. So the ways that you can report, whether it be doing videos, taking videos, or doing little taking photos, taking camera, what the heck? Taking photos of them whilst they're reading. Damn, and they're just live reading, just take a photo. But like taking samples of photos, using photos while they're actually doing these things. I think Benny, stop laughing. You're going to make me laugh. And then monitoring their progress. And so the way that you can monitor their progress is they might start at level 1 when they first start reading, and then the progress is by the end of the year, they might be on level 4. That's the way that you monitor progress. This is the school style education plan example. Now, the next one underneath where the trees are, that is a family pillars education plan example. And so when you're doing something like this, you still need to explicitly be able to name your English and math components. That's a requirement. But as you can see here, as one of the family pillars that we have, or educational pillars that we have, is caring for country. And so then if you go over to the actual little diagram here, the learning area or the pillar is caring for country. Is that Gungenchi language, eh? Jabu? Yep. And then the activities investigating fire-stick farming, tree planting, the importance of planting native species, and then the resources. And then we've got the resources that are linked there, and then the reporting, which is note-taking, photographs, or worksheets. And so this is really up to you, the way that you want to formulate your education learning plan. I know for me, when I first started out, I did the school style, but now I'm doing the family pillars led annual plan, because for me, I just feel like it's easier to connect it back to my family pillars. But it's really easy. Not easy, but it's just really dependent on you. So basically what you do is you can create your titles or your learning areas. Then you talk about how you're going to actually achieve the activities that you want them to do. And then you talk about the resources that you want to put in there, and then the way that you're going to gather this evidence. The reason why we have to gather evidence, and this is going to be in another workshop, is because we have to do an annual report at the end of a 9-month period, eh? Is it 9 months or 12 months?
10 months.
10 months. So at the end of every 10 months, you've got to provide a report. And so that's why we have to gather the evidence. But it's also important too that you're looking at this at an age appropriate level, so that you're doing something that is appropriate to the child's age, but then also to what their interests are. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to some of the mamas who's going to share some of the ways that they some of the ways that they create annual learning plans, because we've all kind of got different ways of doing it, and different styles as well. So I'm going to first hand it over to Annie Leila, and then after her will be Annie Bernice. And then Tintinara, I'm going to do a little talk for Tintinara because she's not on the workshop tonight. And then we're going to give it to Annie Adriana to share with you the way that she does this as well, and her style of doing this. So take it away. I'm getting quicker.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. All right. So this looks like a crap slide. It just looks like a lot of words, could look pretty daunting. So what I thought I'd share, because I did sort of have part of my younger child on that other slide Talisha just showed, I thought I'd just share with you an example for an older child. And so this is for my daughter. I put in, the yearly project. So she basically writes this. So she basically says what she wants to work on all year. And I put that in as a yearly project. And then I have some learning areas that I cover that are cultural based. And just to make sure that that is always in there. And because we're just doing it naturally anyway, so may as well put it in there. And also the learning areas that I've chosen for her and my older son, who's 16, are based on the Australian Core Skills Framework. And that's just because they are looking at TAFE courses and other stuff. And so that sort of aligns with that. And it's just easier because then, I was actually a little bit worried that the home ed unit wouldn't accept it if I didn't have geography, blah, 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 all those other subjects. And but then I just really said, oh, this is based on the Australian Core Skills Framework, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like then they're just like, yeah, well, you've evidenced it. So anyway, it has stuff like learning, reading, writing, oral communication, and numeracy. That's all. So I basically just went through stuff that they wanted to do and put them in there as learning targets, where I was going to get those from, but which is a lot of sort of online course sort of stuff that they just sign up to and do that they really wanted to do anyway. And so I put it all in there. So after all of that, I just want to really drive home to everybody that you almost never look at your plan again. And I feel like, that I look at it, I have a panic attack when they send me an email, because they send you an email 3 months out, and then they go, oh, you're due, this child's report is due. And then I go, oh my gosh, what did I say I was going to do again? And so then I go back and I look at it, but like we've always covered more than that, or it's definitely turned a different way. And that's okay, because we've still covered heaps of stuff, and they never, ever like growl you for that. So they actually promote that. So in your report, well, when you do get to reporting, they do ask why did you change or why did you not change? And so it is important that and I always say, oh, I did I reached the same goals, but was doing it a different activity because my child wasn't into that anymore, or whatever. I just adapted to my child's interest, and they're like, yep. So at the end of the day, these people are just ticking boxes. And like I used to send in when I first started, and this is probably too because I had Adriana like has helped me. Everything that I know is because of her. Okay, so just putting that out. But Adriana, she was registered with New South Wales, and so she sent me hers, and it was like quite, full on, because it's got to be mapped to the Australian curriculum. And so my first one was like 5 to 10 long, I think. But whoever had to read that and mark that was probably like this dog. No, I don't know. But anyway, so now it's around 2 pages, just over 2 pages. I do cover look, I've put in, because I do plan for 4 kids, and I registered them all at different times because they were all totally different ages, and 2 wanted to leave school really early, and one wanted to leave it there, in the middle of the year or whatever. So I do have them all registered at different times. I know that there's other families in the Home Ed Queensland Facebook page. Please go join that and look in their file section, because they have so many approved plans in there, and everyone has tried everything. It's amazing. But they do have full family ones, so they've put in the entire family into one plan and just have a child in different columns. So there are so many ways that you can do it. They're not the enemy. The Home Ed unit are really, really helpful. I feel like they're old school, well, not old school, like bad teachers, but they're like, we're teaching things that they wanted to teach, and we're doing things that they would have loved to do. And so they're very, very supportive. You can always ring them if anything happens. 99.9% of the time, if you get, questioned, it'll just be for further information, and they'll even give you suggestions. They don't go, oh, no, that's it, you can't do it, you're too dumb to teach a kid. Like, I feel like we worry about that, and so we want to look super smart, and we're like, but yeah, really, they don't. They just are really supportive of it. So I've written plans just basically like that Australian core skills one for the older kids. And that was because I'd never registered someone in that was like 16, and so I was a little bit like, how can I do this? And I already do those style for work, so it was just made it simple. But the other ones I do around our family's worldview, like, which is are our pillars. That's all been approved as well. So totally writing from, I actually had the Home Ed unit ring me and say that it was really, really deadly to read that and to see that. And he just wanted to say that it was a pleasure to read and to see what we're doing, and so that just goes to show that they are really encouraging around that. Funnily enough, the one that I wrote to the full-on Australian curriculum, this is for my daughter. She dropped out in grade 10. Well, not dropped out. She saw the light, was enlightened, and came home again in grade 10. And but she wasn't sure if she was going to stay. So I mapped it to what grade 10s were doing. That was the only one that I've ever had them question. And they just said, oh, look, we think you should add some more stuff that is more interest-based, but we've approved it, and I was like, damn, because they just really, they know that their curriculum sucks and that it's dry. They do. And I feel like teachers don't want to teach that, So I keep forgetting that this is recorded and that it can all come back on me and that people will watch this again. So yeah, anyway, stuff it. So yeah, they want to see that your plan is unique. Yeah, and that also just, I mean, if you are a structured person and you need it to be structured, then you probably will follow your plan. But I have never been very structured. No, like good ways. No, but yeah, when your kids are like, yeah, when your kids are into something, they are like, you know, we talked about, we were looking at some recent research that had been done on the what do they call it, the concentration level? No, what's the word? Where kids, how many minutes that they can
Attention span.
yeah, or how the no, it was the
Attention span.
concentration, how long they could concentrate for. And it was like 5 minutes and 15 minutes, you know. And but then I go, well, the luxury of homeschooling is that if your child is into something, they can spend 4 hours on it. Like I had, my son has spent like 3 whole days trying to make a freaking something out of clay, something out of Maze Runner, some evil thing. So hey, yeah, but anyway, so I can upload some of those templates if you want them into the Facebook group. So the one that's based on our worldview, and there was another one, and the one that you just saw for older children. Up to you if you want to use them or not. Yeah, so just to drive home that you only really need to show that you know them, your child, and that you have included their interests in their plan, that you know where to find resources so that you're not going to get stuck. So we're also sending you all a list of resources that you can include in there that you can just copy and paste into your plans. And that you also have a plan for how you're going to evidence your work, because it's too late when it's all done and you're there a year later and you chucked all their books out. We have 500 things on the fridge. Yeah, so that's me. Who's next? Bernice, you're up, Chitter.
Okay, so this is my first year doing a educational plan. Can you hear me? Everybody else can hear me, Talisha. Can you hear me? Yeah, Talisha? Hello, hello? What happened?
What's happening? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I sorry. I was like, I can't hear. Okay, sorry, Annie Ben, you go.
Okay, are you sure? Okay, so this is my prep. This is my first educational plan, because this is only my first year doing it. And at the start it was very overwhelming, and then for me, just to let you know all that. But here is my son's prep educational plan, and I've done prep 3 times before, so I just found it like I just intertwined everything I did with my last 3. And I know we're decolonizing, but I feel like personally, for me, I've got siblings that didn't know how to read or write, and so I feel like it's important for my children, because I've seen what my siblings have been through, not being able to read or write, and it's, they struggle with their self-esteem, and yeah, so I thought when I was doing this that I love the prep start of the educational, the start of them learning, because it really gives me, a real passion to see them going from not knowing anything really, like, and then slowly, gradually building up their confidence in writing and reading and everything like that. Anyway, I'm just babbling on. But as you can see, I used a lot of stuff that I was using in my distance education unit. I had a sequence and scope booklet, and it just showed me what levels or what they should be learning at different ages. And I've got two sons that have different learning areas. One can focus, and he's a perfectionist, and he just loves it. And my other little son, the younger brother, he loves to sit with his little brother sometimes, but he's more of a scatterbrains. So he just likes to, he'll be there for like a couple of minutes and then he'll run off, and that's fine, because I know that he's listening to still. And then next year when it's his turn to do this, he'll be more ready. But I think I'm not saying much, but as you can see, I'm just repeating everything that Layla and Talisha said, really. So I'm done. I'm out. Thank you, Adriana.
Sorry, really quickly, Annie Adriana, before you, I'm just going to quickly just show Tintinara's. So Tintinara's, this one here, this is the one from the actual website. Hey, this is, so if you actually go onto the Homeschool home education website, what Tintinara is actually using here is one of their templates. And so basically she just wanted me to share with you that she generally puts down what she would like Tiago to learn, which is her last child. So he is in prep. And she likes to put down especially what he would like to learn in regards to math and English. Basically, her goal at the end of the year is for him to at least be introduced to each topic of learning, even if they don't get into depth with it, they just like an introduction to the topics. With other subjects like art, humanities and social science, different things like that, she just puts down what his older siblings are learning, and just gets him to get involved with that in an age appropriate way that's I guess achievable for him to understand and learn what's going on. But if there is something that he finds he's very interested in and it's not in his plan, then she'll take that into consideration and put that into his learning plan, and then I guess structure her learning or create experiences for him to do that learning led by him. But the topics that they choose are usually what he's interested in. But also one thing is that she likes to also make sure that it's some things that he could use as valuable information, like reading and writing and different things like that. But nothing is set in stone. And she's also said as well that her education plans are rarely followed. So I think that's just something to think about when you're creating these. A lot of the time we're sending them in, but then we, child focused, connection based, and then flowing with the kids. But there are, times where we might follow certain things each day, but then there might be days where it's a little bit flexible. And I guess that's the beauty of what we do, is that we have that flexibility. That's a key word, and what we're doing is flexibility. So now I'm going to hand it over to Annie Adriana so that she can share with you all the way that she does her learning.
Hi, I don't have any screen things because I didn't hand anything in. Also, it's a bit different in New South Wales. We have to have a full-on interview, and we get a person that actually comes to our home and sits down and reads the report with you, and wants to cite where your learning spaces are, and also wants to cite your children. So that's where it differs a bit. And then they really do want you to follow the New South Wales curriculum, but also the Australian curriculum. So it's a bit difficult and a bit weird, and can be so overwhelming, especially when you're first starting out, because you have to address New South Wales wants their own curriculum, and then there's the Australian curriculum. So it can feel overwhelming. But again, like everyone has mentioned, they really do want you to succeed, and they are actually very helpful when it comes down to it in giving advice if you haven't particularly followed it the way they want you to. In New South Wales also, what they really want to see is a timetable. And I've had in the past, they're called appointed person. That's who comes out to see you, and they've said, oh, look, I just need to cite it. I really don't care. No one cares if you follow it or not, but I just need to tick my box. So I've had them personally say that they just want to see it so they can tick their little box. So yeah, that's how I've done it in the past. Just gone into the website. I think it's called, the Australian curriculum, NESCA, I think it is for down here. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. You don't worry about New South Wales. But I've just gone into there and looked at their syllabus, and it has been really good to read up to see what is expected of them at their particular ages, just for myself to have an understanding of what their peers would be doing. And then as the year goes on, able to see, well, they've, outdone that, or they weren't interested in a particular thing. But like Layla said, also at the end of that time, you actually usually end up doing way more than you had planned or thought possible, and going into things that were much deeper as well. What else can I say? I don't know if you can see this, but we keep it really simple, and I just usually get one of these planners. I don't know if you can see that, but it is just a weekly planner, and it can be a weekly thing. It's usually a weekly thing. We'll sit down and talk about how we want to fill our week and what's already there, activities that are already set, or appointments or things like that. And we just fill that out, say on a Sunday or on the weekend. And the kids also try and fit in, okay, I really want to do this, I really want to do this, or this subject, or read this book, or watch this movie, or go to this place, and we get to fill that out together. And we find that very helpful. The other little things is that they do all individually have, which is just similar to that learning plan, that weekly planner, but each child has their own homeschool daily, even Saturday and Sunday are included, because learning can happen on Saturday and Sunday, and we include the weekend as well. And I don't have set times, because why have set time? They just say, okay, I really want to achieve this on Monday, and that's their own personal thing that they don't even have to really include in our family overall one. I wonder if we've got anything else. The other thing, which is a little bit not to do with a plan, educational planning, but it is actually, is having a meal plan. That is all part of life science, and I get all of my children to help. And we sit and plan our weekly menu as much as we can, but that's all maths as well, because we talk about money. They have to read ingredients, recipes. So that's all part of our educational plan, really. And I find that super helpful. The other thing, I've got another one of these laminates. Chores. Because, man, that's life skills. They have to learn how to wash, clean, do their beds, take care of their animals. We have a lot of animals, and they all need to be responsible and know their jobs. And that's also part of our learning plan in a way. So I think that's all I need to add at this stage. Thank you.
That's deadly, Arnie. Thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate you sharing that. That's so deadly. I know I'm going to go and just tighten up the reins on the chores. Okay, so as we continue, when we keep talking about learning plans, education plans, one of the big things that we cannot say enough is connecting with your local community. Your children are part of their home and your family, but then there's also the wider family, your extended family, and then your community family as well. And so connecting with community events that are happening in your region can also help add meaningful values and these may be aligned activities to your children's learning experiences. It'll also give them an opportunity to connect with other young people. It'll also give you the opportunity to connect with other parents and form those meaningful, enriching relationships, you know, with people they actually like being around. I know that there's times where, you know, we get questioned a lot about our children and their social interaction. I always say to them, well, my kids come from the friggin' biggest family on earth. Like, they got enough interaction from their family, like good ways. But then, you know, because we're doing so many things in the community, our children are just connecting so, you know, with so many different people. It's also important to note that if you have the ability to, and I just spoke about that, but connecting them to that village, you know, with their akkas and their ates, their grandmas, grandpas, aunties, uncles, you know, if it's within your ability to do so, because there's so much wisdom from, you know, our elders as well, and from those people in community. So yeah, what we have here is just a couple of examples, but you've got the one that's highlighted or where the cursor is. That's our children. They have a weekly catch up with our Cairns homeschooling community. If you can hear the vacuum, he's going to be passed very soon. So we have a weekly catch up with our entire Cairns home education community. That's every Wednesday. We're always telling our children to go play with other children, not just stay with their cousins the whole time. And then we've got an art class that happens as well. This is a free art class, and it also is, they do a free sports class as well. That's from 4 till 6. This one here is of Leilon, so Annie Layla's second eldest child, going to the FNQ Indigenous Business and Food Expo, and so getting some work experience there. But, you know, just looking around at all the different businesses, First Nations businesses that are there, so exposing her, you know, with that entrepreneurial style and spirit. And then down here for some of our older children, we've got Good Vibrations. That's a community program run by Deadly Inspiring Youth Doing Good, which is a Deadly community organization. So find those Deadly youth community organizations in your communities and where you're from and connect to them. We've got the First Nations Children's Festival. So one of our actual participants in this workshop, Leah, and her and Annie Marindi, they ran this last year, the First Nations Children's Festival, and it was a really deadly time. We had a really amazing time there. But children got to connect with a whole bunch of different people from all different walks of life. Annie Bernice, did you want to share about the photos with your Walba and what they're involved with down there in Brisbane or Yugambeh Bay?
Yeah. So Bay Choir, which is on the Gold Coast here where we are based, where they learn the Yugambeh language in form of song. And then the other photo of my daughter in the middle, that's our dance troupe called Zom Kolbe Kolbe, which we're also involved with. And also on a Tuesday, we do science class when we're feeling up to it with 3 other families also here on the Gold Coast as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. I think it's also important to remember as well, if there isn't anything in your area, then create it. You know, that quote, be the change that you want to see. You have what it takes to be able to start up something like this. So if you've got a skill in weaving or singing or writing or sports or whatever it is, it might not be during school time. Maybe you might do it in the afternoon so that there are other families or children that can connect or whatever. But we would encourage you as well to think about that and think about maybe some things that you could create where you live that you feel is a need or something that your children might be interested in as well. So as we're coming to the end of this workshop, so this is just some really useful links of where you can find some more learning plan info. So we're actually about to, on the Girigaram First Nations Homeschool Facebook community, we're going to post a PDF in the next couple of days, which is a Black Resources PDF, and it covers things like cross-curricular activities. It covers things like Indigenous games, like sports games. It's also got information about climate justice, because a lot of us are passionate about that. And so we put that information there, so you can go have a diary there too. We've got information for deadly science, Black politics. So, you know, you can find that in our homeschool Facebook page. but we'd also encourage you to go onto the Home Education Queensland Facebook page or the Cairns one or wherever you're located, and try and find a community that you feel that you can connect with, but also that your children can connect with as well. And then if you've got any other information, any other questions that you need, then you can always go onto the Education Queensland homeschooling website, where it gives you more information about how to prepare your applications and get everything ready. So these are your action steps for next week. We don't do homework here because they're homeschool. So there's a note here to say, don't Google until you have an idea of what your pillars might be, because if you hit Google and you just start pumping away, there's going to be information overload and it'll flood you. So figure out what your values are, figure out what your pillars are first before you go and Google, because then you want to make sure that you're being intentional in your research for, you know, resources or activities or different things. But basically, we want to encourage you to start writing your annual learning plan. So we're going to put up some templates in our Giragarum Facebook page, but also if those don't suit you, then go into the Queensland Home Education page so you can have a look at those learning plans, or go to Kmart and get some of those things that Auntie Adriana's got and start writing down your meals and your chores and what the kids want to learn. Like, it's really up to you. We're just giving you some tools, and you do whatever it is that you feel fits best for you and your family in the way that you can connect with them best. But point 2, thinking about what their interests are, the pillars that you're going to use, and then just doing some research that's going to help you to then create something that's going to be enjoyable, fun, enhancing, and just help them to have that love for learning. And then if you do need extra support and extra help, then just posting in the Facebook group if you do need further support as well. So also too, just another thing to take into note, if your child hates plans or they just hate structure, then just going with the flow and just connecting with them. And also sometimes that might mean that there's going to be a little bit of unlearning for us and a little bit of transforming and evolving for us, but really going with the flow so that, you know, it's an enjoyable experience for both of you. And so remember, learning it's your definition of success. It's not the world's definition. It's not the system's definition. It's the way that you want to define success for you and your amazing little warriors. So I'm going to now stop the presentation. And if any of you have any questions on anything that we were talking about, please feel free to yarn now or forever hold your peace. Oh, we forgot to say you can go to bed too if you need to. Or if you've got any feedback or maybe any thoughts of what you thought about today's session, feel free to, don't be ashamed. And if you don't want anyone to see your face, you can turn your face off as well. That's okay. But, you know, this is our deadly little community here, so you can feel comfortable yarning.
I really liked having the variety of different learning plans, especially like with my first year of any kind of schooling. My biggest boy's in prep, so it was really nice seeing the prep ones, because I'm completely out of my depth and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to teach this kid anything? I have no idea. So no, it was really good. Really enjoyed it.
That's deadly. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah.
Okay. Sorry, Sarah. You have to mute. Just wanted to add to definitely go onto the Home Ed Queensland Facebook and have a look at their prep ones as well, because prep is an awesome time, you know, and there's just so many different types of schoolers on there, and you'll be able to find something just amazing, you know, that's really play-based. And so exciting. Oh, I just also wanted to add too that if you like a lot of things that they do at school that schools get included in, we can still do as homeschoolers. So going to things like Peninsula Sports and that sort of stuff, you just ring the regional mob and you go and you take home ed unit actually gives you a letter. I actually didn't need one. I saw that somebody posted that recently, that the home ed unit sent them a letter so that they could apply. But I didn't need it because apparently these mob didn't care. So they were just like, oh no, we'll fill it out for you. You fill it out as the principal, you know? Yeah, but like, so all those sorts of things, because I know sometimes we can feel like that our kids are going to miss out on lots of stuff, but you can still sign up to all of those things because you are a school, you know? So, yeah, and even get a big group of yous together, you know, and do something. Yeah, so just wanted to put that in there.
I'll just add on to that. Last year, a distance education school actually ran a athletics day up here, and so we took pretty much all the kids from our co-op to the athletics day, and they just got to participate like a normal, you know, like it was a normal school thing, and they all cleaned up too. Just thought I'd add that. Sister Cassie Long said, I don't have a school age child yet, but I still feel like this content is really relevant for our family's needs, which I can start to slowly implement now with my 2-year-old Essel Pumley. Thank you, sis, for sharing that. And that's a deadly thing too. Like, you know, if you do have children that are younger, the good thing about this is it's just kind of gets your mind, you know, thinking about what the possibilities would be and how they can actually, you can start to get the ball rolling with that.
So we're like, hello, family.
Alicia and Serena, I'll send you the details for the art classes, sis, for the art and the sports as well. I'll send you that for the Cairns mob. Thank you for asking that question.
So can you hear me?
Does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, Samara?
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
We can't hear you, sis.
I can hear her. I can hear her.
I can hear her.
Sorry, that's me again. What the hell?
No, I just want to say it's really cool because from last week we did the session about the unschooling, and it's just been noticing like how like going to school, like because my daughters, we're gonna transition from school to homeschool. We don't know if it's mid-year or next year, but yeah, just noticing like how she keeps like Dream will go to school and like, oh, like, you know, mention like we got to do this and this, but I want to do this and I want to garden. And so like me, like I'm getting stressed because I'm like, you know, she needs to learn to read, but at the same time I'm like, well, you know, that'll come with what she's learning. And like I think someone mentioned, Adriana, about the cooking. I didn't think to show her the ingredients because she's starting to notice like, hey, that's D, or that's, you know, that's an M, or that's in. So like I think that's really cool, like picking up little things from what you guys are doing, and then being able to incorporate into what we're doing already, like, you know, cooking, and maybe get her to notice all the ingredients, which is probably really, really cool. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, my sister. Auntie Adriana, I have a question for you. Would you be able to, because of the method of how you teach your how you coach and mentor your children, would you be able to share with us, I guess, ways that you do that, in terms of like, you know, when it comes to reading or writing or different learning milestones that are constantly we face as homeschooling people, just methods that you used or the way that you approached it, just so that, you know, you can share that with the rest of the group.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, like Samara said about recipes, there's just, well, not just recipes, everything. There's reading to be, you know, done in every space every time. And I'll let you know too that for my he is now 12. I don't feel like I even taught him how to read. This might shock some, but I did not teach formally ABCs or phonetics or any type of formal sit down English lesson. It was basically read. We loved to read. So I would read out loud to him since he was little, constantly just, you know, started off with little picture books, little books that were up to his age, to then chapter books. And he would also be so little in the pram and be asking me, you know, what does that say? We could be at Bunnings at the shopping centre, but they're always asking us questions. They're always asking, oh, what does that say there? Or what is this? Or what is that? So that's our opportunity to then say, this says this. And I would always add, oh, because, you know, the blend C and H make the sound ch, you know, things like that. I was adding phonetics into it and lessons in everything, but it wasn't formal. And all we did, I swear, was read. And if he had questions, I'd answer them, or recipes, anything like that. And then one day, I will never forget, he was only about 6. He was about 6 or 7. And again, we're in bed reading our novel, our chapter book. And he says to me, oh, can I read now? And I would always say yes, because in the past there were books with pictures. So he would just make up the story as we went along. And that's awesome, because that is a step to reading. But he'd just make up the story looking at the pictures. But this book had no pictures. And we're laying in bed and he says, can I read? I went, yeah, for sure. And he, no joke, started reading. He was reading everything perfectly, that I freaked out and I sat up and I'm going, what? How are you doing that? What the heck? You know, I couldn't believe it myself. And I thought perhaps Joel had mucked around and taught him, you know, had him memorize what it said. But I would just flick another page. He was reading full on, all by himself, because he had decoded everything for himself. So in my opinion, I feel that that is an amazing and a better way to learn, because he decoded reading himself by asking questions, by reading. We just read. We'd go to the library, you know, it's free. We just bring back books that he liked, and yeah, he decoded. And then I thought, man, that was a freak fluke. There's no way, you know, he was just talented. I was thinking, no, he's just got this, you know, down packed. He must be extra amazing. And I thought, man, my next child that was coming up, she's now 10. And I thought, damn, years ago, I have to really now start teaching her how to read, because I swear that must have been a fluke, that was just a freak accident that he learned to read that way. But no joke, it happened again with her. And again, just reading, but she was a lot more, she wasn't that interested in reading like he was. So I actually didn't push her. She didn't want to read books like he did as much. But what she did love to do was search for songs on Spotify and you know, search for songs on YouTube. And that's how she got to learning, because she wanted to find her own songs. She got to reading. And again, she would say every now and then, oh, I can't read. And I said, well, do you want to learn? And she would say, yeah, but she would never want to actually do the lessons. So she was more like, you know, I want to read, but I don't want to sit down and do the lessons. We would do every now and then, but again, just pure interest. It happened. She decoded reading herself in her own time. So she didn't read as early as my son did, but she would have read at about 8 years old. And again, all for herself. I was just there to help her with words and sounds, and she just did it all herself, no joke. So that's how amazing our children are at figuring things out for themselves. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I like to just watch them sit back, and when they need me, I'm there. And yeah. Was there anything else, or I don't even know if I answered that. I think I got carried away.
You did not get carried away. That was stinking deadly. Can you get more carried away? I'm just going to mute myself and you just keep talking. Hey! No, but for real, Arnie, like if there's anything else that you want to share, like for real, please do, because it's amazing what you're doing.
Well, yeah, I just think, our children, we have to give them more credit for what they can pretty much learn on their own. Yeah. But I still do. I have to admit that I still encourage them to sit and do maths. And I do speak about the importance of learning the foundations, which are maths, English, writing. So I do always speak about that. And then throughout the week, they are doing like maths online. They love that. And then just activities out in nature. There's a website called Nature Study Australia, and they have really cool maths ideas and programs that you can just download and then do at home. And I like to do that with my little ones. So yeah, maybe I'll try and find the link and send it to you.
Yes, and we will add that to the resource link. Thank you. I do have another question for you, Annie Adriana. If your child doesn't want to do the work, like say for instance, if they don't feel like doing some math or whatever, how do you approach that? Because I think sometimes, just for me personally, I think that is defiance, or like they're not wanting to listen to me. And so what do I have to do as the adult to take control of that situation? I don't know if anyone else has those thoughts, but how do you approach that? And what do you do? Is it an act of defiance, or is it just they don't care, or are they being lazy, or what is it?
No. It's not even defiance. It's not even that, but we take it personally. We think, they don't want to do this because we've told them to, or it's important to us. So it is hard. I did go through all of that, and I still go through all of that. Like there are still moments I think, damn it, I just want you to sit down and do this. And it's just doing it for me. But that's the wrong way. Well, no, to me, it doesn't sit right with me anymore to force them to do something that I think is good for them. So I just take deep breaths. I might lose it for a little bit because, hey, I'm human, but ultimately it's not defiance in my eyes. They have their own agenda, they have their own plans, and here I am coming in with mine when they might not want to do it right then, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to do it later. So I think it's a great time to then be able to negotiate. And I like to sit down once I've calmed down because they haven't wanted to do what I said, I will just say, okay, let's talk about it. When do you want to do it? Or what do you want to do instead? And when do you plan on doing it? Or when can we do it? So I think that's building a foundation of communication, trust, and trust is so important in this setting, or any setting as parents, but it starts from right then, I think, giving them the opportunity to be their own authority in a way, because it doesn't matter whether they do maths at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday or Wednesday, or they might do it on Wednesday at 7 p.m. They're still going to get it done eventually. And there's better ways to come up and negotiate the terms. And then they feel like they have that input and they're in control. And I want that for my children as they grow into adults, to be able to negotiate what it is they want, when, how and on their terms, but negotiating is compromising. So I still get what I want, but it might not be straight away. So yeah, that's how I deal with that.
Thank you for sharing that. Which are any of you mamas? Any of you got any other questions or thoughts?
Hello. Oh, great.
Hey, Sid.
Hi. Hey. Sorry. I do have a question. Yeah, thank you. I found this really informative because, as I said, I am rolling dirty with my family. We're not registered. Yeah, I applied and then I didn't send in the plan. So then it got declined, and then I applied for the extension and I still didn't do the plan. It got declined again. But yeah, I'm feeling a lot more confident about, yeah, how you just explained that they're really supportive. I didn't really know those things, but it really helps. Are there, when you do the plan, sorry, the reporting, you do another plan for the next year, and then do they have to approve that again? Is that how it works?
Sorry, we're in the same room and it keeps double echoing and making me feel tripped out. So the question was that if when you're reporting, do you submit another plan for the next year, and you have to wait for that to get approved? And the answer is yes. Yeah, you do. You put the new plan in with it. It's not as sort of like, you don't have to put as much information in. Like, you don't have to put the learning environment and all that. Well, I never have, and you know, in my first one I did, but then from then on I was like, well, they already know my learning environment, surely. Too bad if it's a new person. But yeah, I just never did that again. And every year I just try and put less and less and less in to see how much I can get away with, because it's a hassle for us, and I'm not trying to prove anything to them, and they don't care. They're literally ticking a box, so they don't want to have a 20-page freaking document, which is what I used to send. But good ways, yeah. So yeah, yes, you do.
Okay, family. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, we're going to wrap it up. But if you do think of something while you're sitting on the toilet at midnight, or just whenever you're doing your thing, just shoot us a message in the Facebook community, and we will get you an answer as best as we can. But we just really want to thank you all for your time again, for being on this workshop tonight. And we're really excited for next week. So next week we'll be looking at reporting and gathering evidence. That's what we're going to be focusing on, is gathering evidence to report, but also to just breaking your learning plans down into bite-sized pieces if it's something that you like, whether it be breaking it down, you know, for what it looks like in a day or what it looks like in a week, like Adriana's little book thing that she's got, a little checklist thing. But yeah, so just going through all of those things next week. But if you do have any questions, just, yeah, shoot us a message and let us know. But once again, we appreciate you all. We appreciate your time. We appreciate, you know, the fact that you are either considering or choosing this as a lifestyle and a journey. And we really look forward to connecting with you all tomorrow, next week. So love you, mob, and have a very deadly rest of the week. Yeah, well.
Good night. We leave.